Well, we're joined now in the studio by Max Eppel, who's a barrister with the law firm McFadden's, also works as a football agent. And Max, in the last hour, two more lines have emerged. First of all, that Liverpool are going to go back to the High Court to fight the injunction from Texas. We're also hearing that Tom Hicks may have sold his shares to Mill Financial, who already, we believe, own George Gillette's shares in Liverpool Football Club. So let's steer through this one point at a time. Let's start with the trip to the High Court at 2 p.m. UK time. What is it that Liverpool and the board and RBS are trying to get out of this trip to the High Court?
Well, I think it's important to realise here that taking it a step back to the injunction which was taken out, or the temporary restraining order in Texas, that isn't a final decision. Well, the merits behind that, or the strength behind that, is that an American judgment is only enforceable in England if they actually have a judgment, not a temporary restraining order. If you have a European Union judgment and you want to waive it in front of the English courts, it's easier to do. But the remedy here is to have a final judgment in the States, then come to England and sue on it as a debt. So my belief is that what they're trying to do here is they're two very deeply entrenched positions, and they're trying to push the deadline to tomorrow and see what RBS does then. And
what could happen today in court at 2 o'clock?
Well, it's an interesting set of proceedings, because what could happen is that they'll be trying to establish just how binding what's going on over there is, and if they're able to set it aside over here. My guess is probably not, and my guess is that it can probably be circumvented until they have a final judgment in the States. But nevertheless, I imagine that the NESV are going to want to know that that if they do a deal for Liverpool, it's going to be unencumbered.
And that means that Gillette and Hicks won't have any part in that, is that right?
Exactly. There's not going to be any outstanding legal proceedings, debts or anything like that.
What about this hedge fund, Mill Financial, who we believe have bought Tom Hicks shares? They already effectively own 50% of Liverpool because they have George Gillette's shares. If they do own 100% of Liverpool Football Club, does that mean that the deal with NESV can still go through?
Well, you have to look at what the sale and purchase agreement says. You're dealing with very complex documents, and these always have warranties, promises, if you will, as to what each party will do before, during, and sometimes after the acquisition has gone through. So it's very difficult to say here without having had sight of it. I'm sorry to give you a lawyer's answer, but it just all depends.
Well, yeah, possibly is the answer to a lot of the questions here as well. You were talking a little bit earlier about Hicks trying to push the deadline back, so he goes past the deadline for administration tomorrow that RBS have set. If that happens, is there a very real threat that Liverpool could go into administration? Can the Royal Bank of Scotland decide not to put Liverpool into administration, or do they have to do it?
Well, that's my understanding. I was in court on Wednesday for the hearing, and what I essentially saw a lot of was counsel for Hicks and Gillette saying, well, you know, if RBS want a remedy, they can enforce their debt, they can enforce their security and get it back on the 15th. So I think a lot of this is the political backdrop to this is, do RBS want to be saddled with Liverpool at the moment? You're talking about a state-owned bank taking hold of a club like Liverpool with hundreds of millions of pounds worth of debts. So I think that's what's being funneled in this direction from the Hicks and Gillette camp. And
very briefly, Max, what's the rough timescale?
The rough timescale? Well, I mean, as far as I understand it, the deadline is tomorrow. And that means that RBS will have to take a decision as to what they want to do. But, of course, there could be differences that come up in court today, and there also could be talks going on in the background.
So it could go on for ages.
Max, more than likely.
Thank you very much. Max Eppel there joining us to put us straight on everything that's happening with Liverpool Football Club. We'll continue to watch that story for you. Well, Liverpool fans